Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammi and Nathan Jaeger. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. This week's episode is a little bit of a special one because Sammi and I have just celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary.
And it's the very last episode for 2022.
Yeah, how amazing.
So thank you for playing with us this year and thank you for spending our 10th year of marriage with us. So before we get into what is going to be the 10 things that we practice to keep our marriage fueled up, I just want to tell you a little bit about how we celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary. What did we do, Nath?
So we had a party. We got all of our favourite friends, family, co-workers, everybody that we love in our life all together in the beautiful Barossa Valley. And we renewed our vows and had a really fun time.
Yeah, it was so special. We are so grateful. We had so many of our friends travel from all over Australia. We even had some friends visiting from London, which timed perfectly. So they were able to be there with us too. And if you've listened to the show before, the Barossa Valley is where Nathan and I grew up. It's part of our origin story. It's where we were spending a lot of time when we fell in love. So it was really so special to bring all of the people who have entered our life since we've been married back there to come and see it and enjoy it and to have this celebration with some of our family and some of our grandparents right there with us.
Yeah. And it was just so amazing for so many of our friends to meet each other because obviously living in different cities, not everyone has met each other. And so it was, a really nice moment.
Yeah, and like they said, we renewed our vows because when we got married the first time, we didn't actually write our own vows. We had the kind of like pre-prescribed ones from...
Cookie cutter ones.
Yeah, so it was a really nice opportunity for us to kind of acknowledge some of the vows and promises that we'd made back in 2012, but then to also add to them as well.
Yeah, and just to make some new promises and things that align to where we're at the moment.
So in this episode, we're going to go into the 10 things that we practice to keep our marriage fueled up. Some of these we have only really activated in the last couple of years. Some of them we learned really early on. And of course, all of them we are still mastering.
So let's jump in. So the first one, and kind of needs to be number one, given the name of the show, is to continue to date forever. So really this one is about prioritizing our date nights. So we've got a rhythm around our date nights and our dating practice. So as we've chatted about before, we do a 2x2x2. So that is 2 dates a month. Every 2 months we go away for a weekend and then twice a year we travel overseas or we go on a bigger holiday.
Yeah, this is definitely one that didn't look like this in the beginning of our marriage and it has evolved and we've now found something that works really, really well for us. So whatever you do, we encourage you to find a rhythm that works for you. But ultimately, dating forever is about dating yourself and your chosen person intentionally.
And if you're here, we know that it's a massive priority for you too.
So number 2 is nurturing our 3 lives. So by that, I mean Nate's life, my life, and our shared life.
So if you haven't heard about this concept before, what we're really talking about is an interdependent relationship. So that's just making sure that we're each individually creating and maintaining a beautiful life. So we can stand alone as our own person. We haven't just turned into a big codependent blob.
A big Sammi and Nathan blobby-shaped blob. Yeah, so that Nathan still has his life, I still have my life, and then in that sweet, sweet middle, we share an incredible life together.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think this is something that we did overly well all of our marriage, and it's definitely taken conscious effort to maintain some interdependence.
We've definitely gone through different phases of our relationship as well. Sometimes where we've been very together and very codependent, other times where we've been a little bit more independent. But I think we're continually working to make sure we're finding that sweet spot of my life, your life, and our life together.
So number 3, we practice constructive conflict. So early days, we really didn't fight very much. And what we probably recognize now is that that absence of conflict was probably reflective of neither of us really speaking up for what it was that we really wanted, or really kind of just giving way to the other person, or not advocating for our own like wants, needs, desires, opinions, thoughts. So I think conflict is going to be inevitable in any relationship, but I really think this is something that we've worked quite hard at, to agree on the rules for how we will and won't speak to each other, how we will and won't do conflict, so that when it happens, that we can do it in a really constructive way. And one of the best things that we've done in this area is like learn how to repair after the conflict so that it doesn't linger and consume even more time and energy than the actual fight.
And one of the other practices that we've got, which works really well for us to try and prevent conflict or to bring it up early, is once a week when we're doing our weekly check-in, what we'll do is we'll ask the question about, is there anything you would like me to apologize for today? And this really helps to bring any of those small little niggly things that might have been bothering you for a couple of days to the surface so that we can chat them through and work them through, rather than them sitting around and festering and building for weeks and weeks and weeks or months and then turning into a much bigger conflict. So that's been a real game changer for us.
So number 4 is about being goal-getters. The very first episode of Date Forever, we had Keith Abraham on the show, and he talked to us about the importance of couples having shared goals, things that they're going after together, things that they're co-creating together, things that are important to the two of them, that they're both contributing to some sort of outcome or some sort of future-focused achievement. So that's really big for us. We set a lot of goals. If you've listened to the show before, you've heard us talk about our annual game plan. Every year we take at least a day, sometimes two, to reflect and review the year that was and set some goals and intentions for the year to come. And we're really intentional about the goals that we set and about deciding what it is that's important to us, the things that we're going to rally around and work towards prioritizing and achieving.
So these goals often help us get towards something that's on our grand vision board. So one of those things that we want to really achieve in life. So number 5 is about staying on the same page. So the way that we do this is that we have weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual check-ins. So this might sound like a lot, but what we're really doing here is we have an annual check-in where we kind of map out the next 12 months, work out what our priorities are for the next 12 months, and then every quarter we have a kind of a major check-in to see how we're tracking to that annual vision. And then in a more granular sense, we have weekly and monthly check-ins as well, just to make sure that we're on the same page. We know what's on for the week.
How's the money? How's the sex? How's the food? What are we doing this week? What is coming up for us? And how can we support each other to have a smooth sailing life?
Yeah.
So having this regular practice flips it from being really reactive to proactive. And it really does help us stay on the same page.
So number 6 is a fun one, and that's about celebrating our wins. What gets celebrated gets repeated. So this is celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, achieving the big goals that we've set for the year, Valentine's Day, all of those amazing things that help us keep our relationship alive.
And just like we said right at the beginning of this episode, we just celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary and we went all out. So we're really big on celebrating what we want to see more of. Those moments where it feels like we've achieved something or made progress, or we want to recognize the other person. We're really conscious about celebrating that in some way. And in our household, that often looks like popping a bottle of champagne or going out for a nice dinner or doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, buying some kind of treat or carving out some quality time together.
So number 7, keep being curious. So one of the things that we've learned over our relationship is that we don't know everything about each other and that we're continually growing and evolving as human beings. And so our likes or needs or wants and all sorts of things might change about us. So one of the things we do is continue to be curious about each other, ask questions, make sure that we don't ever have that feeling that we know our partner and there's nothing else to learn.
Yeah, the husband that I have today is so different than the husband that I married. And Nath might still be the same person, but he's not the same person. So I think exercising that curiosity helps me stay interested in who you are as a human and who you're becoming.
So number 8 is a big one that gets talked about on the show all the time, and that is speaking our love languages. So that's making sure that we know what our own love language is and how we like to receive love, but also knowing what our partner's love language is and how we can then speak to them in a way that they'll receive our love. So Sammi's love language is gifts and a little bit of acts of service as well. So it's one of those things where I'm just making sure that if I'm going to the supermarket, I might just pick up a little gift or something for her.
So if you aren't familiar with the 5 love languages, go check it out. It's created by Gary Chapman, but there's 5 different ideas about how we both give and receive love. And sometimes the way that you like to give love is not the same way that you like to receive love. So to do a quick recap here, so they're acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. And as Nath mentioned, I really love receiving gifts and Nath really loves physical touch. So he's a big snuggly bug. So we're different. So we need to be conscious about how our default is of showing love and also whether or not we're receiving love in our preferred love language.
So number 9 is our growth game. And so this is really about growing as an individual and as a couple.
There's been periods of time within our marriage where one of us has been growing faster than the other. Guess who that was? And what we've learned is that it's really hard when one person is standing still and not actively investing in growing themselves or bringing new ideas or thoughts or concepts or tools or resources back to the relationship. And as a person, if someone's standing still, it can feel really stagnant and it can get boring and it can get hard when it can sometimes feel like you're growing apart. So something that we've become aware of is how important it is for us to continue to invest in our own personal and professional development as individuals, but also together. The last 4 or 5 years, we've made a really conscious effort to attend or consume some sort of personal development things together, whether or not that's been attending events or reading the same book and then discussing those kinds of things so that we're continually growing together, not apart.
And the final one, number 10, is our attitude of gratitude. And this is really fitting because this is the last thing that we do almost every night just before we go to bed. So this is just making sure that we're appreciating us, our partner, our life, something that's gone on during the day, just bringing an attitude of gratitude to our life.
This practice, number 10, is probably one of the simplest, and yet it's so easy of a habit to fall out of. But yeah, this is a practice. This is something that we practice every day. For me, since we embedded this practice, it's quite a few years ago now, after reading The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor, about this idea that you can train your brain and your mindset for what you see in the world and the way that you perceive things. So when I'm actively looking for the things to appreciate Nath and the universe for, I see more of that. I see more opportunities to appreciate, and then what I appreciate appreciates. So I can't encourage this one enough. Attitude of gratitude.
So I know that's probably a lot, but I'm just going to do a quick little recap. So number 1 is dating forever, making sure you've got a dating practice. So number 2 is living our 3 lives, so nurturing an interdependent relationship. So number 3 is constructive conflict. Number 4 is goal setting and setting goals to achieve together. Number 5 is staying on the same page, so having regular check-ins. Number 6, what gets celebrated gets repeated, so let's pop some champagne. Number 7 is keep being curious. Don't think that you know everything about your partner. Number 8 is speaking our love languages. Number 9 is our growth game, so growing together and individually. And number 10 is our attitude of gratitude. So I just want to be clear here too that we're definitely not masters of all these things. These are things that we're still practicing, and we're continuing to evolve the way that each of these practices play a role in our lives.
So thank you for joining us today and listening in to the 10 things that we practice in our marriage to keep it fueled up. And thank you for spending 2022 with us. We hope that whatever you're up to over the next couple of days as you bring in 2023, you're celebrating, because I'm sure you've achieved some wonderful things this year.
So to say thank you for celebrating with us and for listening today, we've given 100 days of clean water to a student in Zambia. This project is run by Build International and made possible via our partnership with Buy One, Give One. So thank you so much for listening.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.